My name is James Ponsoldt, and I am the director of The Spectacular Now.
My name is Sutter Keeley.
I got everything that I need right here. I've got a job, I've got a car, I've got a beautiful girl.
I was the life of every party. You gotta live in the moment.
It's about this. This is beautiful.
Hey. Hey.
Where the hell am I?
Do you live around here, Sutter?
How do you know my name?
You go to the same school. I'm Amy.
That's what I was gonna say. Nice to meet you.
I made a film in 2012 called Smashed. It was at Sundance in 2012. And pretty soon after that, the producers of the Spectacular Now approached me to talk about the project. And I was aware of it because it had been written by Scott Neustadter and Mike Weber. The screenplay had been, and they had written 500 Days of Summer before. And that had been adapted from a novel by Tim Tharp, which was a really fantastic novel. So I was flattered that they'd come to me, although I'd never really been interested in adapting someone else's script before. But I gave it a read, and it was the fastest read I've ever had. It was so moving, and it was really the most honest depiction of adolescence that I'd ever read. And it really actually reminded me of myself, sort of at 16, 17 years old. So, you know, I met with the producers, and I still had a little bit of apprehension about directing someone else's script, but I, you know, sort of was very explicit with them about the way that I would want to make this movie, that I would want to take it down to Athens, Georgia, where I was from, that I'd want to shoot it on widescreen 35, that I'd want to use specific actors. I talked a lot about the sort of the tone of the film, and they really embraced that and were so supportive, and we were shooting, you know, 5 months later down in Georgia. I mean, the biggest inspiration for me for The Spectacular Now was the script and was Tim Tharp's book. That really gave a voice to Sutter, the main character, and gave sort of an emotional value system. You know, it's the type of story that respects the emotional inner lives of teenagers. It's not reductive. It doesn't make it about, you know, just dumb jokes. It's not about kids who can become werewolves or vampires. It's kids who are just complicated kids who, you know, who are anxious about the future, and that was the biggest point of inspiration. But you know, there were a lot of films that were important to me in thinking about it that weren't necessarily quote-unquote teen movies, because again, I think a lot of teen movies really flatten out the experience of what it is to be a teenager. They're not as complicated as movies about adults. So, you know, there were a lot of movies that were adult love stories that I really, really loved. Movies like Manhattan or A Woman Under the Influence that really meant a lot. But then I also really loved Splendor in the Grass and American Graffiti and Say Anything, you know, Dazed and Confused. You know, those are films about young people where they feel complicated and they feel real. And I think audiences of young people, older people, whatever, are really, really sophisticated. People see so many movies they don't want to be talked down to. They don't want movies that are simplified for them. I think they want complicated and really emotionally rich characters. So that was really the goal with our film. First read the screenplay for The Spectacular Now, I wasn't sure for the first 10 pages or so how I felt about the main character, about Sutter. He felt kind of like this cocky, alpha male party guy that I'd seen in a lot of other movies. And I didn't really want to glorify that kind of character because a lot of times those guys aren't so nice in real life. But then the script surprised me. You know, Sutter sort of falls on his face, literally, emotionally, you know, about 10 minutes into the film when he meets Amy, who's, you know, really changes his life and challenges him. And the story began to become much more blurry. It wasn't about this guy meeting a manic pixie dream girl who saves him. It's actually a story about two people who get a lot from each other, but actually it's not always the most healthy of relationships. It's very much like a real adolescent relationship that can be full of drama. But I think what's great about Sutter is he is so relatable in all of his flaws. He's someone, you know, that's a little bit delusional, like any 18-year-old boy. He thinks he's great, he thinks everything's cool, but he's got problems. There's a lot of things that he's not dealing with, a lot of things that he's sort of emotionally deflecting, and he's kind of afraid to get close to people. And more as the film goes on, I think we realize that, you know, he's scared inside, as a lot of us are, and it's nothing, you know, that happens all at once, but we get a slow awareness of him as a character, and I think it sort of, in certain ways, perhaps it endears us to him because we really go on a journey with him and realize that he's not at all what we think he is at the beginning, and he's not at all like the type of character, you know, that we've seen in other movies of that guy, kind of alpha male party guy. That actually, he's a scared little boy at his core.
What's your story?
I don't really have any stories.
What do you mean? Everyone's got a story.
I don't know. I'd like to think that there's more to a person than just one thing.
You know, I gotta tell you, Sutter, Amy Finicky is just a strange choice for a rebound.
You're 17 years old. You don't have an ex-boyfriend?
No.
Really?
Sutter, guys don't look
That's
at me
shocking.
like that. I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely, guys look at you like
No,
that.
no, no.
Amy, you're absolutely beautiful.
oh my God, no.
And if she falls for you, what happens then?
Well, the way that I worked with the actors in The Spectacular Now was that I treated it as a collaboration. It wasn't that I'm the director, you're the actor, you do what I say. We really were partners, and I promised the actors from the get-go that they could try anything they wanted in front of the camera, and we would film it. They would just have to agree to try anything that I asked of them, because I respect them as artists. You know, so much of my work as a director was just in casting the right people. Once I had the right people, you know, we had long conversations about the characters, about the scenes, and really I opened it up to the actors to really let me know what felt less than honest, less than grade A to them, you know, things that they thought as an 18-year-old, like that they wouldn't say or do, and we course corrected, we changed. You know, far be it from me to tell Shailene Woodley what it's like to be an 18-year-old girl. She knows a lot more about that than I do. So the best thing I could have done in that situation, which is what I did, was I listened to her. So by the time we got to shooting, all of the actors felt really empowered. They'd helped create these characters. I'd even put them in contact, you know, with our production designer, our art director, so that even little tiny details about their bedrooms reflected them as people and their take on these characters. So it really was a collaboration, and the film was sort of the sum of the parts of everyone that was there. And I think that allowed us, when we were on set, to feel free and spontaneous, where we could play and not micromanage and take risks and wind up with something that hopefully felt like it had tiny bits of happy accidents and grace and felt as awkward and clumsy and beautiful as life.
What about like ex-boyfriends? Say, we need an ex-boyfriend in there.
No, I don't have
Who's like an ex-boyfriend that just like really pissed you off, that you just that just like you hated, and if they're just
I
like
don't have an ex-boyfriend.
what?
Yeah.
You don't have a single. You're 17 years old. You don't have an ex-boyfriend?
No.
Really?
Sutter, guys don't look
That's
at me like
shocking.
that. I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely, guys look at you like
No,
that.
no, no.
I just saw two guys looking at you like that. Eric Wolf and Cody Dennis were 100%
we were
hitting
just
on
talking.
you.
They were not hitting on
100%.
me. No, there's absolutely
yes,
no
they were.
way.
Why don't you think they were hitting on you?
Because I'm just, they weren't.
Because you're what? Amy, you're absolutely beautiful.
Oh my God, no.
I think the biggest thing for me that I learned on The Spectacular Now was that real confidence comes not from always having the answer, but being okay with the idea that the best idea should win out wherever it comes from. And that if you surround yourself with people who are smarter than you and more talented than you, then the job really at that point should be to listen to them. You know, you don't always have to agree. You can respectfully disagree, but the goal should be to have a group of people that really are trying to tell the best thing possible and are getting something better than they would if they were working on their own. And that there should be an environment created where people can make mistakes, can try new things, and that, you know, the films that really get their hooks in you, that you really think about, that you fall in love with, it's not because they're absolutely perfect, absolutely clean. In fact, some of the best films are a little bit emotionally messy. The characters fumble, they're awkward, they feel like people you know in real life. They remind you of yourself, really. And I think that's how we see ourselves in characters, not in how perfect, how amazing they can be, but in how flawed and human they can be, but how they're trying to sort of just get their lives together and have a sense of hope.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for taking time to talk with us.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely, guys look at you like
No,
that.
no, no.
Amy, you're absolutely beautiful.
Oh my God, no.
And if she falls for you, what happens then?
Should we take our shirts off?
My sister, she's having this like fancy dinner party. Would you want to go with me?
Yeah, what time?
It's 10 minutes.
Oh, 10 minutes from now.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have dreams, don't you?
To dreams.
I'll tell you something, I don't live in the past, I live in the now, because that's what it's all about.
You know, everyone's telling me I gotta move on. I don't see what's so great about being an adult. Are you happy?
You're not the joke everyone thinks, man.
I love you.
You don't love me.
Yes, I do.
Kinda thought she'd be the one to yank you out of neutral.
Do you not see that I'm bad for you? You need to get away from me.
You have the biggest heart of anyone I know.
I love these people. I do. I love these people. I love you all.
This right here, this is beautiful. This is the youngest that we're ever gonna be. This is our time. Live in the now. Cheers.
Cheers.
To you, Amy Finicky.
To you, Sutter Q.